I mean, Nike might call this shoe trash, but I think it's fire. What's up, everybody? I'm Seth Fowler, and today I'm reviewing one of my most anticipated sneakers of the year, the Nike Space Hippie 3. So if you've been following any of my weekly Heat videos, you know that I've been waiting for this shoe for a minute. And finally, 3 days before the shoe actually comes out, I have a pair. The Nike Space Hippie 3 releases alongside the other Space Hippie sneakers in the collection on July 3rd in the United States for a retail price of $180. And genuinely, this is one of the most exciting shoes to release in a long time, not only because of how it looks, but also because of how it's made. The Nike Space Hippie collection has already released overseas and includes 4 different silhouettes. The Space Hippie 1, which kind of looks like a standard Nike Epic React. The Space Hippie 2, which is more of a slip-on mid-top sneaker. The Space Hippie 3, which we have here, which is the tallest of all 4 sneakers. And the Space Hippie 4, which I believe is a women's exclusive. And the best part is that every single one of the sneakers in the collection is made with sustainability in mind and uses primarily recycled materials. So to give you some background on why the Space Hippie 3 looks like this, and also why the other sneakers in the Space Hippie collection look so futuristic, the inspiration behind this collection was life on Mars. And yes, obviously this looks like a shoe that an astronaut would wear, but the real idea behind the inspiration is that materials on Mars are scarce and that sustainability is necessary in order to survive. From what I can remember learning about planets in high school, Mars is pretty far away, and because of that, there aren't really a lot of resupply missions, or there wouldn't be if we actually ended up landing on Mars, if Elon Musk has his way. So in a way, this shoe is sort of a mashup between sustainable manufacturing processes and radical design. So the focus of this shoe, and I guess this entire collection as a whole, is reusing materials that would have gone to waste otherwise. And the crazy thing is that design intent doesn't stop with just a sneaker. With the Space Hippie collection, Nike has also decided to rethink the way that they do packaging. So this is the Nike Space Hippie 3's box, and if you buy this directly from Nike, you would get it with no packaging. This would actually be the shipping box, and the shoes would just be inside it. Like most people, I would assume that you have probably bought a pair of sneakers online, and when those shoes come in from wherever they're coming from, they're usually double boxed. In the case of the Space Hippies, that's it. This is the entire package. And interestingly enough, the size tag is actually on the front of the shipping box itself, which I know some people might object to because then you know exactly what's inside this box, and there's a lot of thieves that want to grab Nike sneakers, but you know, I guess it's all in the name of sustainability. I was actually watching Cousteau's video on the Space Hippie 1, and he asked a really interesting question. And that question was, if you buy this shoe or any shoe in the Space Hippie collection from a resale site like GOAT or StockX or somewhere like that, does the shoe come double boxed, or does it just come in the shipping package that Nike sent it in? And I can tell you from my own personal experience, because I bought this pair off GOAT, it does come double boxed. So if you're selling a pair of these, make sure to double box them. Also, actually, if you'd like to grab a pair of these from GOAT for resale, or if you want to try and grab a pair off Nike, I've left links to both sites in the top of the description. But the fact that Nike is not double boxing this shoe isn't even the end of the story. It actually continues on when you open the box. Inside the box, you'll actually find a bunch of really cool printed design work, which is actually printed in plant-based ink. That's apparently another way that Nike is trying to stay sustainable and trying to use materials that won't harm the environment as much as standard inks will. Throughout the inside of the box, you've got Space Hippie written a bunch of different times. You've also got Nike Trash Transformed written, and then you've also got this QR code right here, which I scanned and it took me to Nike.com, but it took me to this weird landing page that might not be active yet that seemed to make me think that it's going to give me first access to something. I don't know, maybe when you get your shoes in the mail, I would definitely try and scan that and see if it gives you first access to something crazy. But honestly, who knows until the shoe finally releases. But not only does Nike give you this really interesting shipping box, they also give you this bag to hold your sneakers in because you might want to throw out the box. This is sort of a thin fabric bag that I'm sure is made up of recycled materials in some way. It definitely feels like it's some sort of recycled plastic or something like that. You've got Nike Space Hippie 01, 02, and 03 written on the side, and then you've got the Nike swoosh pinwheel on the other side. I definitely think this bag is a nice touch, and it also gives you a good way to store your sneakers if you don't want to keep the box. But finally, moving on to the sneakers themselves. So getting into the Space Hippie 3, a majority of the upper is made up of what Nike is calling space yarn, which is this sort of dark gray yarn knit material. Like most of the other sneakers in the Space Hippie collection, the Space Hippie 3 is pretty much a one-piece booty construction and gives you a very sock-like fit. And although the space yarn creates a relatively soft and flexible knit, it's definitely not as soft as Flyknit. And the reason for that is because of what it's made of. Nike Space Yarn is composed of 3 different recycled materials. The first is post-consumer t-shirts. Those are the Nike shirts at the outlet that don't don't get sold, or maybe the shirts had something wrong with them, or maybe just the extra inventory that they had. In addition to that, Nike Space Yarn is also composed of textile scraps. Those are the fabric scraps that were left over from manufacturing, whether that's apparel or sneakers. And then finally, the last material is recycled plastic bottles. And so all those materials are woven together to create space yarn, which is really a surprisingly soft material for what it's made of. I just love when big brands like Nike and Adidas get into sustainability, and I realize that a lot of it is probably marketing, but in the case of the Space Hippie collection, it really seems like they are actually making a pretty big difference. I could be wrong about that though. All that we've ever heard about this sneaker is from Nike's marketing, so you never know exactly what they're telling you and what they're not. But from what I can see from having this shoe in hand, feels good. It feels like it's actually a step forward. Aesthetically, the dark gray color of the knit creates this really nice base for the sneaker to be built around, and I really like the color that they went with. In the center of the toe, you've got this embroidered Nike swoosh, which comes in a split orange and black. Then moving up on the shoe, you get to what I guess is the tongue of the sneaker, or maybe more of a shroud. This space yarn panel covers up an elastic panel underneath, which allows the middle of the shoe to expand depending on the width of your foot. Running down the center of this shroud thing, you've got this white nylon feeling pull tab that has Nike embroidered into it in sort of a light cream color. While this cover does seem to protect the elastic material underneath, I don't think that's its main purpose. I think it actually mostly helps with the lacing system. As you've probably seen, running across the center of the midfoot, you've got this neon orange pull tab that literally says pull in the middle. And you may recognize it as Nike's FastFit system, which means in order to just tighten the shoe, all you have to do is pull this pull tab. So the way that this lacing system works is that there's some sort of ratcheting mechanism somewhere in the shoe, and it's connected to these thin, white, almost flywire feeling cables. When you pull the pull tab, it works with the ratcheting mechanism and tightens these white threads, which pulls the entire upper of the shoe together. And it works relatively well. I don't really have any complaints when it comes to fit. Then once you've tightened the sneaker, you can actually loosen it by pulling this orange pull tab in the heel of the sneaker. I've got to say, visually, this system looks dope, and it looks really great on this upper. However, functionally, it kind of scares me a bit. I've never really been a huge fan of this FastFit system because I've always been afraid of the durability of these little white threads. I mean, what if they got caught on something, or what if one of these wires gets cut? It's not like you can replace it like you can with just putting in a new pair of laces. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it. I've never really had a pair of sneakers that had the FastFit system for longer than a couple weeks, so once I start to wear these, maybe I'll find out that it's all okay, but to be honest, durability does scare me a little bit. Since we're talking about the lacing system, we might as well talk about fit. Now obviously this fit guide is only for the Nike Space Hippie 3. I can't speak to any of the other sneakers in the Space Hippie collection because they're not high tops and they don't have this fast fit system. But I will say, even though I'm a size 9, I bought a size 9.5 because it was the last size available, and I'm so glad I did because this shoe definitely fits a little bit small. Now when I say this shoe fits small, I don't mean in length, because in length it fits just like a standard 9.5, and I'm a size 9, so I did have a little bit of room around the toe. However, width-wise, it did feel a little bit narrow, and that's probably because of the fast fit system and the fact that it only tightens around your midfoot. For me, a size 9.5 fit perfectly, at least width-wise, and if you have anything more than narrow feet, I would probably suggest going up half a size. Not only that, but this ankle area is also really tight, and if you go up half a size, it gives you a little bit more room around the ankle so you can actually get your foot into the shoe. But hey, that's just me. For you, it might be something different. So if you have the chance to try this shoe on first before you buy it, make sure to do that to make sure you're grabbing the right size for you. As for the actual inside of the shoe, your foot is pretty much just up against the raw space yarn. There is some elastic around the ankle, which makes this area a little bit softer and a little bit more stretchy, so it's easier for your foot to slide into the shoe. And then rounding off the inside of the shoe, you've actually got this really interesting insole, which is made up of compressed Zoom X. Zoom X is one of Nike's softest foams and is used in a ton of different running sneakers that they make that require a lot of cushion and a lot of response. And of course, in the manufacturing process, when you cut out the foam for a midsole, there are some excess pieces left over. And so what Nike has done for this insole is chopped up all the little pieces of Zoom X and compressed them to create a new kind of foam. Now to be fair, this new compressed version of Zoom X or recycled version of Zoom X is nowhere near as soft as Zoom X, and it actually kind of feels like styrofoam a little bit. I feel like if I bend this midsole too much, it might crack and break. But to be fair, it is cool that they're reusing this excess material and it's not going to waste. In addition to using this compressed Zoom X on the insole of the sneaker, they actually use it on the inside of the midsole as well. The compressed Zoom X in the midsole of the sneaker feels exactly the same as it does on the insole. To be honest with you, it's not that soft, and it makes this shoe not the most soft or cushioned shoe in the world. It's definitely not uncomfortable, but it's nowhere near as soft as Zoom X or even React. It's definitely more of a EVA feeling midsole. And then getting to one of the most eye-catching details of the shoe, you've got the crater foam that surrounds the Zoom X cushioning. Crater foam is this light blue midsole material that is a blend of past Nike foams and 15% Nike grind. Nike grind is this multicolor speckling that you find throughout the midsole, and what that actually is old chopped up Nike soles. While Nike Grind doesn't make up a majority of this midsole or this outsole, it definitely gives this shoe a unique look and adds to the recycled and sustainability factor of this shoe. So as I mentioned before, this crater foam surrounds the compressed ZoomX cushioning underneath and creates the midsole and outsole of the sneaker. And then rounding off the shoe on the toe and the heel of the outsole, you've actually got these gray rubber areas that also have some Nike Grind in them. The Nike Space Hippie 3, and for that matter the entire Space Hippie collection, is a really exciting step forward in footwear design. This shoe is just really a perfect example of how innovative sustainable footwear design can be, and I'm so excited to see what Nike does in the future. Once again, if you're trying to grab a pair of any of the Space Hippie collection for yourself, they release in the United States on July 3rd, and the Space Hippie 3 retails for a price of $180. Aesthetically, I think that the Space Hippie 3 is by far the most exciting, but wearability wise, I think I would prefer the Space Hippie 1, and that's the pair that I'm going to go for on July 3rd. But with that, we wrap up my review of the Nike Space Hippie 3. Now I would love to know your thoughts on this shoe and just the entire collection as a whole, so let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like this video if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.